You're listening to the 49 Carats podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Wednesday, November 20th. Not doing a way back Wednesday show today with Rob, obviously, but if you guys missed Bully Ball yesterday, I did that show with Rob, so make sure you check that out on my YouTube channel or on the Gold Standard Network. But today, I have a very special show with a very special guest, Packers legend, former Fan of the Year, content creator, the #1 distributor of Chaotic Good. He's also raised $1 million for charity in his fine work. And I am so happy to have him here today, Mr. Tom Grossi.
Wow, that was such a nice intro. I appreciate that. Thank you. Listen, you come on Chaotic Good Sports. We got to come on 49K. It's just, there you go. Shaking hands, crossing lines. This is how we're doing it.
Let's go. 49K, Grossi Posse, hashtags in the live chat. What up, everyone? Well, Tom, obviously, I have you here this week because it's kind of an important week in our fandom. We have met each other in similar fashion other times, right? You know, yep. 49ers-Packers. You know? Many
times. Yes.
Many times. Yeah, we do actually play each other quite a bit. I say we, like, you know, we're suiting up, but you know what I mean. And it's gone a certain way in the regular season. It's gone another way in the postseason. I was actually surprised by this. So in the regular season, the Packers have won 7 of the last 8 regular season home games against the Niners. Yeah, you know that.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, because, you know, you got Mason Crosby kicking the game winner and stuff. Like, you got the regular season is not a problem. It's the postseason. That's always the problem. So, you know, this game, maybe I'm a little confident in of like, okay, you know, 49ers trying to catch their stride and we have a good record. But, you know, once that January air hits, it's a whole different beast, apparently.
It is. And as for the 49ers right now, there's some question marks as to whether they'll even make the playoffs right now. So I'm sure you guys are probably, you know, sigh of relief over there in Green Bay.
I have not stopped crying, Steph. Just the potential of not being able to see the 49ers in the postseason. I mean, why even have a playoffs if they're not going to be there? That's what I'm saying. The people are talking on these streets. So I don't know, man. I also, we talked about this before the show. The background that you have currently in the back of us is can't make it out. Is that Mason Crosby kicking the game winner? It was just snowy in Santa Clara when they kicked that.
No, it's not Jake Moody. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. There's definitely not.
Might have gone a different direction had it been, but
maybe Anders Carlson. I mean, I know you released him and now he's with the Jets, but you borrowed him for a hot second and he kicked like a 50-yarder and then, you know, shanked an extra point, which welcome to the club.
What he hit, like a 58-yarder, right?
Yeah, which is ridiculous because he couldn't hit that when he was with us, but then he goes to San Fran and I was like, watch this guy turn into an all-pro. But apparently that was not to be with San Francisco.
Yeah, the 49ers then cut him, and then Jake Moody was missing kicks. So, Anders Carlson, 49ers legend, as we know. But, I had to put the background that I did because, to me, it feels like the last time that I could really rub it in Packers fans' faces. Really. God, so, you're happy about that. So I think you can live with this. All right. Yeah. But what I wanted to start this show with was a bit of an exercise. All right. To just kind of get a temp check on where our teams are and what we think about the other team. Right. So it's a sentence. All right. And I want to finish the sentence and you're going to finish the sentence too.
Got it.
I think the Packers blank. I'm going to go first. I think the Packers' future is bright.
Use 3 words. Okay. I thought we were limited to one.
Yeah, no,
word.
It doesn't have to be a sentence, you know. Don't give me a paragraph.
Okay. Paragraph 1. I think the Packers, if their defense is good, there's commas in here, have potential to go on a run.
Okay.
That's where I am. I feel like there's a sense of cautious optimism when I'm looking at the Packers, because you look at this past Sunday's game against the Bears, and that was a very, very close game. Not one that I really anticipated being that close. And right now, how I feel about the 49ers is like they're kind of just this inconsistent team. Like there's a lot going on. And it's like, okay, if you have the opportunity to beat them, we need to take the chance to. So this game, like you alluded to, like is a really important game, I think, just for both of our teams, as we're both trying to make it into the postseason, trying to kind of get something going. And yeah, Sunday's gonna be a time.
It certainly will be. Now, I want to do the same exercise for the 49ers, right? So for this one, I want to get your thoughts. You think the 49ers are
lost. It's a one-worded answer, but yeah, it just seems that there is a significant difference this year, even then there are, there are injuries and things like that. It just seems like things are not being executed at the level that we're used to.
Yeah, which is, it feels very relevant that you say that, because mine was, I think the 49ers are at a crossroads. And they're kind of in between this weird, going on a run, and with the same team you've kind of more or less gone on a run with these last couple years. And at the same time, it almost feels like, I don't know, age of certain players,
Sure.
just like this team's destiny is kind of forcing them towards, no, you're not going on the run with these guys. Like it's not happening anymore. You gotta change some things up. So it feels like they try to do the same thing over again.
Yeah.
One last time. And it's not really working for them so far.
Oh, I mean, listen, I know all about last dances and last chances, because you ended ours with Rodgers, when we had everybody together. And then they were like, you know what, guys? No, it's okay. Let's run it back one more time in 2022. And we did not make the postseason. So I'm not saying they're the same team, but I completely understand. And I think that getting as far as you did last year in two really close games, once against the Packers in the divisional round and then one against the Lions, it was like, okay, if there's going to be a time, it's this time. And when it didn't work out in the Super Bowl, it's like, okay, well, let's run it back. We're getting the majority of the guys back. It's before Brock Purdy's got to get paid. And it just seems like everything that happened in the offseason, whether it was Ayuk and you finally pay him, but then he gets hurt. And now Juwan Jennings is doing really well. It just seems like there's a disconnect going on. And yeah, it's weird to watch them not be dominant and watch them wake up on Sunday because, of course, but it is odd to kind of see that there's something missing there.
Yeah, and I actually appreciate that you made that comparison to that Packers team, because, yeah, I think there is something to teams wanting to run something back that has worked maybe a little extra time than maybe they should have, right? And I don't know if you've noticed, Tom, but there's a lot of Kyle Shanahan slander out there. There's a lot of fire Kyle talk amongst 49er fans. And yeah, like national media has caught wind of it as well. McAfee had a segment on it, and it's a thing. Now, 49er fans are dramatic, so that's not surprising to me. I'm just curious, like, how did Packers fans handle that whole thing with Aaron Rodgers and all the drama that came with that, and just that season, like maybe those last 2 years with Rodgers? Like, how do you see a difference at all, or were you guys dramatic? What did that kind of?
Well, I mean, don't worry. The art for the dramatic flair is always there for the Green Bay Packers. And I mean, listen, the second that Jeff Hafley screws up one thing, it's fire Jeff Hafley, which, listen, the defense wasn't good on Sunday, but we've been saying fire defensive coordinators for years. I think it's a litany of things, because you have the Packers who, when Rodgers gets traded, there was kind of this understanding from the fan base of he doesn't want to be here anymore. It seems Goody doesn't want him there anymore. And it's just like both sides. Okay, like let's just move on. If it was the year before, when he won back-to-back MVP and then they traded him, I think there would have been a significant backlash to that, just because you just traded a back-to-back MVP. There was obviously a backlash when Jordan Love got drafted. And I think that while there are similarities with the Packers and the 49ers, I think the differences, and this is interesting, is that Brock Purdy still has to get paid. And for Aaron Rodgers, in 2019, we lose to you guys in the NFC Championship game, but we definitely overperformed that season. Then in 2020, best team in the NFC. Then in 2021, best team in the NFC. And then Rodgers had to get paid. So then there was the conversation of, okay, we're going to, and this is where I think the Packers made the wrong decision, but I understand why they did it at this point, is they paid Aaron Rodgers, took on a bunch of money, and then wound up trading him the following year when we didn't make the postseason. So you're in a position where, okay, this running it back as of right this second, week 12, and there's still opportunities because your division is your division. I think there's opportunities for you guys to still go on a run, but the biggest good concern is, okay, there's still guys that got to get paid, including our franchise quarterback in Brock Purdy, right? He's got to get paid in this offseason. So now decisions need to be made. So I think that for the Packers and Packers fans, we look more on the play of like Jordan Love and seeing, that he throws a good amount of interceptions. That's where there's concern. And there's a lot of like, oh, well, is he just going to be Brett Favre? Is he hurting the team and all that stuff? I like to I'm taking a step back and let's just see how it goes. I think the positive has outweighed the negative for Jordan Love. I've been saying that for a few weeks because while, yes, he'll throw interceptions, he'll make up for it with game-winning drives. So I think Packers fans are always looking for the wrong thing to happen because it's happened so many times to us, whether it's in the postseason or not. So, yeah, there's always going to be that sense of dread and doom and gloom. But for the 49ers, I think you're just in a very precarious place because if this year doesn't work out, this offseason is going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to look very, very different. And I think some of us thought that 2024 offseason would be that, right? And ultimately, like we said, like they decided to run it back and hasn't looked like you would have expected it to. And then, Brock Purdy has to get paid after this season. So it'll be interesting what the rest of the season looks like because, now there's questions about, should you pay Brock Purdy, $60 million, right? Like that, those are the conversations we're having, right? And so
we just had him.
Just had him. Right? Yeah. So I guess like it makes me feel better that I think Packers fans have gone through similar things. And I think the reason I wanted to ask you specifically is because I think two storied franchises that have had a lot of success in the past, and that has kind of become an expectation every single year. So like our disappointment and our overdramatics comes from that, right?
Well, it's so funny because talking to so many fans over the years is you get kind of this perspective that maybe you didn't have because the 49ers are usually a good football team, right? And they are contending in which either going to make the postseason or the past few years, the expectation is basically Super Bowl or bust, right?
Yeah.
With Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, that was 30 straight years. And that's not I'll be very clear. I'm not complaining in any way, shape, or form. But when you have those kind of expectations, last year with Jordan Love, there was actually a lack of expectations. And it was kind of refreshing a little bit. They struggled definitely in the beginning, and then they went on that run and beat the Cowboys. But I was like, oh man, like I don't know what this team is going to look like. We're kind of just throwing our hands up at safety saying, I don't know. We don't know what we're doing at quarterback. We have the youngest wide receiver room. And then last year happens and it's like, okay, well now we need to pay Jordan Love. And the going rate for quarterbacks is $55 million because that's what Trevor Lawrence just got paid. So, okay, we got to pay him $55 million. And now you're at this, crossroads coming up. Let's just say like worst case scenario, the 49ers don't make the postseason. Now you have to decide, okay, like you said, are we going to give $60 million to Brock Purdy because that's the going rate for quarterbacks right now? Oof. That's tough. I don't have the answer. I'm curious to like what your thoughts are. And like right now, like today, are you giving a $60 million contract to Brock Purdy or do you need to see the rest of the season?
That's a complicated thing, right? Do I want Brock Purdy back on this team? Yes. Like obviously I do want him as part of this team. Do I want to pay him $60 million? No.
Yeah,
no.
that's
but
fair.
Does the team have much of a say in that. The quarterback market is a quarterback market. I mean, you just said you had to pay Jordan Love that amount because of T-Law. Thank you very much, T-Law, for that.
We saw him for one season. We saw him literally for one season.
Yeah, that's tough too. That kind of reminds, not to compare Love to Jimmy Garoppolo, but that was similar to how, like, oh, he played 5 games, now we have to pay him. That's tough. At least for Love, you got to see him a little bit longer. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that with the way that Brock has looked this season, which is he's taken a bit of a step back from what he was last year, I think, right? I hope his expectations for what he will get paid and what he will be looking for in this offseason will be reasonable, right? And maybe not tied too much to the quarterback market. He's a humble, like, Christian man. I'm hoping, he'll
you will get paid in the afterlife. You will not get paid on earth. That's fine. I don't know if that'll work in contract negotiations, but it's worth a shot.
It's worth a shot. I mean, why not? Right. I mean, so let's see. Realistically, I think the 49ers gonna have to pay him. I mean, because that's just what the market is, but we'll see. I do still think that this next stretch of games, which is very tough for the Niners, I think is going to determine ultimately what his asking price, I think, will be and what the 49ers are willing to pay him as well. But yeah, ultimately, I do think the 49ers pay Brock Purdy. But as to how much, that's still the question. But
it's funny because you mentioned before kind of these calls for Shanahan, and I feel like those aren't new with the 49ers fan base. They're just quieted when you're winning, right? And they just come out significantly when you're not. Because I think Shanahan is a very good head coach. I think that he has flaws, just like many other head coaches in the league. And I think that his longevity with San Francisco has led to the fan base becoming very familiar with his flaws. And when those repeat themselves, then it's, here we go again. Nothing's changing. It's same old, same old. And that's tough. Like, it's the Steelers. It's the same exact logic, right? With Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin, I think, is an incredible coach, but he was dragging those teams, whether they had a quarterback or not, to the postseason or at least to a winning record. And they would always lose in the wild card, and they wouldn't have a great draft pick. And then it's like, well, I'm just tired of this. And because you're winning, technically, you guys went to the Super Bowl, you're going to all these places. But at the same time, when those constant errors or flaws or mistakes poke their heads, that's when that section of the fan base is like, see? But my question to you is there another coach out there that you think you can get more out of these players? Because that's the ultimate question, which you're going to start over again from scratch, and you've already invested a ton of money into the personnel and the players that are already there. I think it's kind of a little too late to say, all right, let's get rid of our really good head coach and hope there's a better one out there.
I mean, that comes up a lot. Like, that's the argument against firing Kyle Shanahan for a lot of fans. It's like, do you want, Tom Sula back? Chip Kelly, all these people that, the 49ers failed with ultimately after firing Jim Harbaugh, right?
Yeah.
And that's looked as a huge mistake in the 49ers fandom, and I'm sure internally as well, like in the organization. But yeah, ultimately, I do think it's unwarranted right now.
Sure.
I think the criticism is warranted.
Sure.
Like, for things to be a theme that we've seen with Shanahan, right? And that kind of being something that, like you said, it continues to come up. And especially when you're losing, you're 5-5 with this roster, like, yeah, the fans are going to be frustrated. I think it's fair for there to be criticism. But I'm just not there yet with the whole fire Kyle Shanahan. But yeah, it's tough. In the next season, if there's something similar and the 49ers are, miss the playoffs, assuming they miss playoffs this year too, like, yeah, then we could have some conversations. But speaking of, I mean, speaking of, as far as like the implications of this game, though, I mean, they're huge for both teams. You talked about the game for the Packers last week, right? Divisional game, playing the Bears. You don't think that you would be that close in a game against the Bears, but ultimately, you guys got it done. 49ers, on the other hand, playing a Seahawks team
Yep.
that they've beat the last 6 times, right? I hear you guys have a little run going against the
11
Bears,
straight
right?
against the
Something like
Bears.
that. Yeah, similar.
Don't forget it, Chicago. Never forget it. Sorry, continue. Yeah, 11 straight. Yeah, because you guys, right? You'd beaten the Seahawks ever since Russell Wilson left. Like they had not beaten you guys. So like there was that streak that was going. So yeah, very similar. And it looked like you guys had that game. And then Geno Smith is like, never mind.
Well, the problem with that is that, yeah, we looked like we had the game. The 49ers have looked like they've had every game against all of the NFC West teams.
Yeah.
I saw this stat today. The 49ers reached an in-game win probability of over 90% in 3 of their 5 losses this year, in all 3 against the NFC West teams. In the Rams game, the 49ers had a win probability of 96% at one point in the fourth quarter. Arizona 93, Seattle 90. They lost all of those. Like this is a team that has a hard time finishing games. Sure. And even when they're when they're in games, first 3 quarters, doesn't look like it did last year, right? Like they're struggling in the red zone. Just looks very discombobulated. Christian McCaffrey doesn't look like the same guy. Debo doesn't look like the same guy right now. I mean, Jesus. Woof.
I had to lead into the mic on that one. Jesus. All right.
Yeah. But even with all that being said, I mean, the 49ers still have a shot here. And I think right now, their playoff chances are at, I think, like 27% of something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Now, for the Packers, their playoff percentage goes up from 77 to 89 if they win this game. If they lose, it goes from 77 to 63. So for the 49ers, I think the difference is like 50% either way. So if they lose, like, forget about it.
Yeah.
But in your guys' case, I think you'd still have a shot, but it's still pretty important to win for both sides.
No, 100%. Yeah, this game is pivotal. I want real quick too. I think it's really interesting because the 49ers over this past like 5 years or so, they've done some things very, very well, right? They're going to a couple Super Bowls and within the last 10 years, all that great stuff. The 49ers have also made like significant mistakes in drafting Trey Lance, for example, right? And we're still talking about them as a Super Bowl caliber team. Like they made a huge move. Go and get their guy, and it didn't work out. And then they were able to, trade him for pennies for Dallas, who don't even have a quarterback right now, and they're still not starting Trey Lance. So to be able to rebound from that, I think speaks to, hey, front offices are going to make mistakes, but the fact that you guys went to a Super Bowl, like last year and almost were able to win it. I mean, again, I think that just speaks to what we were talking about too, just like the talent that's on this team, the front office, the coaching, because you look at what's going on with the Jets, you look what's going on with the Browns, you look at what's going on with the Panthers. Like there's a bunch of teams that have made some big moves and it's blown up in their faces, similar to how it did with the 49ers, and they ain't competing, right? So I think it, again, just stands to where the 49ers are. And so like heading into this game, even though like they're struggling, I'm not overlooking the 49ers in any way, shape, or form. This is going to be the 3rd week back that Christian McCaffrey's back. Maybe he starts picking things up because the Bears ran all over us last week. So like there's opportunities here for the 49ers to get this win. And I'm definitely not looking past them because 1, they've had our number, at least in the postseason, for quite some time. And 2, like they still have enough talent on that squad, going up against, a newer defensive coordinator, he's in his first year, and with a defense that does not really have a pass rush and, has a tough time stopping the run. So yeah, I mean, like there's opportunities there for them to take advantage, but it's like you said, like both teams need to get this win to kind of solidify, okay, what is December football going to look like? Is it win every single game the playoffs start right now, or do we have a little bit of a buffer?
Does it give you any solace knowing that the 49ers have looked the way they have? Like, does it give you additional hope, or are you more scared? Not scared, but like, are you more cautious because the 49ers are coming off a loss where they themselves say they're angry. They're angry, even though it's week 12, guys. You guys should have been angry a long time ago. But, they really want to get this game to maybe make a point or something like that.
I mean, we're nervous every single time we play almost any team in the NFC West because we have a history of just absolute heartbreak. The Rams not really in the postseason, but hey, I remember Ty Montgomery fumbling, returning that ball out of the end zone. Seahawks don't need to say anything. And then there's you guys, right? Cardinals, we've had plenty of playoff heartbreaks. So yeah, no, I'm not necessarily afraid, but there's always going to be that trepidation of like, oh God, it's this team again. We usually have some pretty damn close games in whether it's the postseason or it's the regular season. So I have no disillusions that this is going to be a blowout. I don't think the Packers are going to run away with this game. I hope and don't think the 49ers are going to run away with this game. So I think it's going to wind up being a really close football game that both teams just really, really want to win, not just because you want to win in the NFL, but just because of who these two teams are and the rivalry between them.
Now, I think as for the Lions, I think there's this like revenge game that I'm sure everyone on the Lions has like circled on their calendar, coming up. Just the revenge from the NFC West game, right? Do you feel that way about this game at all? Just with the way that the playoff game ended, last offseason?
With like a revenge game against the 49ers? I mean, I think if there's anybody who's looking at this as a revenge game, it'd be Jordan Love, right? Because the Packers had so many opportunities to win that divisional game. And unfortunately, it was a costly interception that just ended their hopes of doing so. And while Love has not been the best in terms of, throwing picks this year, that I think is going to be very much on the mind of, hey, yeah, let's get this one back from them. But their entire focus this entire year was Love saying that we're not going to be underestimated anymore. I remember like going into the 49ers game, we're the 7 seed, they're the 1 seed. And even after we, right before we played that game, Shanahan came out and was like, oh no, this is a good team. Like this is not, don't care about record, don't care about seeding or anything like that. So yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily a revenge game, but it's one that Packers fans definitely want to exercise some demons. And if this is going to be a turning of the page, I would love for it to start on Sunday.
I was curious about that because I kind of felt like it could be a revenge game. Like from my perspective, I would think, oh sure. God, like the Packers probably want to get their get back on the 49ers. And yeah,
I mean, it always feels a little bit more personal just because, I mean, the amount of heartbreak that has come at the hands of you guys has been significant. And it's just two sides of the same coin, right? Because while we're not having the postseason success against you guys, you're not having the Super Bowl success against the Chiefs. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, okay, you're getting a couple steps further, and then it's still that same expectation that we're both trying to get there. We're just experiencing heartbreak, within a couple weeks span difference.
In different fashion.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We got a super chat from Corey. He says, if Purdy does play, I see the precipitation in the forecast and it's frigid. No bueno. Oh yeah. Like the weather in this game, right? When the schedule came out, seeing we have to go to Green Bay in late November, I'm like, oh, I hate that. Don't love it. What is the forecast looking like for Sunday?
It seems like it's going to be a little bit rainy. I mean, man, if we got snow, it'd be amazing. But it looks like it's going to be a little bit rainy. But here's the thing, Steph, are you actually concerned about that? Because the last time that you came into Lambeau during a playoff game, it was like 5 degrees. Bosa's peeing on a high school, and you still were able to win. So I'm just saying, is there really that much of a fear about the weather?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. One, Nick Bosa might not even play. We'll talk about that in a bit.
But like
Brock
a shame.
Purdy,
what a shame.
Shame. Brock Purdy doesn't do well in rain or wet conditions, right? Mm-hmm. Like rain or snow even. I wouldn't feel comfortable about that, especially with how he's already looked a little shaky at times this season. I would hate it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in that case, right? Like, is that where there's also some concern about giving him that major contract? Because you're like, all right, it is raining. And that's stuff that if you won the Super Bowl last year, I don't know if you pay Brandon Ayuk this offseason. I don't think you do if you win a Super Bowl. And I think it just comes down to okay, we're bringing the gang back together again. Unfortunately, there's injuries and stuff, but this is the game where Brock Purdy needs to play well in the rain, right? And like play well and be like, hey, this is the guy. If we're going to go on a run, I'm assuming it's going to run through Brock Purdy for a good chunk of it and or CMC. So both those guys not looking their very best. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a big CMC game then, if they're just going to be leaving it on the ground.
Yeah. Another super chat here from Jason. Let Kyle Allen cook. Why are we talking about Kyle Allen in here? What did he do? I missed something. Raven says that was one of the most intense games I have ever seen. Indeed, it was. I mean, every 49ers-Packers game feels so intense. And while a part of me has like emotionally detached myself from the team this year, I say that, but like my heart is going to be pounding in this game, just like it has for the last 2 games in the fourth quarter, right? So I'm nervous. I'm nervous even still.
Well, I mean, like if you had to identify it as to what is looking different, do you think it's the coaching or do you think it's just like players not looking like they have in previous seasons?
It's so many things, Tom.
Yeah.
It's so many things. And we've had time to like dissect it all, right? In this 12 weeks that we've been experiencing this now. I think it's Brock, like I said, looking different than last year. There's a little bit more hesitancy. I think he's wanting to be more careful about protecting the football. And with that, he just thinks about certain throws a little bit more. He used to just like, throw it. Like it used to just be drop back, pass, like fast. Now it's drop back, look, no one's open. Oh my God, I got to scramble and make something happen. And that's why you've seen him using his legs quite a bit. In fact, he's actually leading the team in rushing touchdowns right now, which is pretty crazy. But I think it's just because of that. And then you have this whole narrative of 49ers receivers aren't separating. We already talked about Deebo Samuel. Like we don't need to talk about that. He's not separating. But everyone else, like you see Ricky Pearsall, rookie wide receiver getting open. Christian McCaffrey's usually open, somewhere in the flat. And, sometimes you might force a ball to him, just like he did this past weekend, and that ended up being an interception. So there's just a lot of things with Brock happening. I think there's a lot of discombobulation. And then when Christian McCaffrey has come back, which me and maybe a lot of people too thought, hey, the offense will be just like it was last year once Christian is back. That hasn't happened, right? Kind of the same issues. They're putting themselves behind the 8 ball with penalties. Right. So then they're putting themselves in situations where they have to throw unfavorable down and distances. And then it's just, that's not their game. Like, and I also think Kyle Shanahan's a bit of a rhythm play caller.
Very much so.
So once he gets going, it's like offense is on fire. This offense has not got going like once this year at all. Right. So it's just hasn't felt cohesive. And then you got, first-year defensive coordinator, which there's going to be some growing pains with that. And I think the biggest growing pain we see is fourth quarter seems to be an issue with the defense, right? So not being able to finish on both sides really for this team has kind of been an issue. Veterans not really looking the same. Like Christian McCaffrey hasn't looked the same since coming back. Maybe he just needs more time to get into the swing of it. Not sure. Deebo Samuel looks like a shell of himself. Kittle's really the only veteran that looks like the same guy and maybe even better than he did last year. Like thank God he's going to play this week. He told media members he's going to play. Nice try.
So happy.
Yeah, nice try.
Listen, I tried to give him a vacation. I said, you know what? You've earned it. All right, George, you know what? There's a pay-per-view going on for like WWE. Go to Survivor Series, go relax, enjoy. But no, I didn't take it.
Yeah, no. So he's going to be playing. Thank the Lord. But it's just been a number of different things.
Just a ton of things.
Yeah, and even then, like they're winning in such, or they're losing in such small margins. So it's like if you can fix at least one of these things, it's like you could probably win some games. So,
yeah, no, I understand that completely. And again, like I think that the foundation is good. It's unfortunate that just there are injuries and they talk about Super Bowl hangover and all that great
yeah,
stuff, but like
feels real.
there is like there's more tape. There's, it is difficult to field a consistent football team that is Super Bowl ready every single year. And again, like if the 49ers wind up winning on Sunday and go on a run and just get hot at the right time, CMC looks better. I think there's still opportunities for them. It's just a matter of, can they get started? Because I completely agree with you that very much a rhythm based kind of coaching and like momentum and stuff like that. That's why, when they beat the Lions in the division, the conference game, I was like, oh man, like I was a bit surprised because I was like, I know they were going to be able to come back from behind, but they took advantage of those mistakes and all that momentum started building. And there you go.
Yeah.
Would you really? I don't know anyone's trading for Cousins with that contract. That's 100 million reasons why not. And he's not looking great either. I mean, I know that that's been rumored forever, but yeah, I don't know about that one.
In an alternate universe, I'm sure it has happened. And for the audio listeners, Corey asked a question about Payne, Purdy, and if they miss the playoffs, will Kyle Shanahan maybe trade for Kirk Cousins? Yeah, I'm sure. Like I said, in alternate universe, they've been together for the last 10 years, however long Cousins been in the league, and they've
parallel lines.
Never meeting. They've won Super Bowls together. Who knows? But let's take a look at this game specifically and looking at the injury reports. So for the Packers, things are going pretty well as far as injuries, right? Yeah, Marshawn Lloyd, running back, he was placed on the NFL list, so he didn't practice. Jair Alexander, that one's kind of a big one. He exited the game last week with a knee injury, and he's not practicing today. First practice of the week, so I don't know how much that really tells us, but do you have a pulse on this at all? Like, do you feel like he's at risk at playing, or is this just kind of managing his practice?
Well, so the problem was he's missed a game already. So Jair was injured with Evan Williams, and then they came back on Sunday, and then Jair left that game relatively early and then just was like in street clothes, and that was it. So I don't know like if he is not practicing, I'm sure it's just we're waiting. But LaFleur has talked about it a little bit this week and saying we're kind of just waiting and seeing. It doesn't seem to be serious, which is a good thing. And then Marshawn Lloyd, he actually came off IR and was like, all right, we're going to play. And then he woke up with appendicitis. So he's not playing for a bit. So we won't see him, but we haven't seen him basically all season. So Jair is definitely a big addition there because our corners were getting kind of beat up a little bit. So I hope he does play, but I would not be surprised if he misses another week, just so they're just being overly cautious. It is a very big game, but they also have you, and then they're playing on Thursday. So it's a short week. It's a short turnaround.
And then Thanksgiving, right?
Yep, they're playing the primetime game on Thanksgiving. Dolphins.
Yeah, so you guys are playing a lot of games in a short amount of time. So something to keep an eye on. Jedi, thank you so much. Says muscle on the Packers stuff. Yeah, we'll try to do that. Suit up and help get. Hey, if Bosa misses this game, like put me in, coach. All right.
Yeah. You got it.
Speaking of Nick Bosa, he didn't practice, right? So now, Tom, he's dealing with two different injuries. So going into the Seahawks game, he was dealing with the hip injury. He played with it against, was it the Bucks or I don't know. Well, he had it going into the Seahawks game, played with it anyway. And now he's dealing with an oblique on the other side. Yeah. So he's dealing with two injuries. It looks and sounds painful, right? So do not practice on Wednesday. It's not encouraging. Then Christian McCaffrey, rest. All right. Don't be alarmed by this. All right. Don't worry, Tom. Christian is going to play on Sunday. I know you were worried about that, but he's going to be in.
I was so overly concerned. Yeah.
And then Trent Williams too. Don't worry about him. Well, I'm a little worried, but he did play with this ankle injury on Sunday against Seattle. He came in limping and everything, but he gutted it out. He's resting this week, so he didn't practice. Brock Purdy dealing with shoulder soreness. limited.
That's that time of year.
that time of the year, cold weather.
Yep.
I mean, who knows? George Kittle limited, but says he's going to play. And then Cowing's in the concussion protocol, but we haven't seen much of him this season anyway. The one I want to talk about is Nick Bosa, because this is huge to me. This is huge. I mean, if you look at the splits for Seattle's offense when he was in versus when he left the game, it was a really stark difference for that team. And I think they averaged 2.1 more yards per play after Bosa exited. Yeah, that's pretty big. So I have to imagine that the Packers would love it if Bosa didn't play. And Matt LaFleur was asked about it. He said, yeah, there's some plays that you would certainly not want to do with him in the game. And it, like I said, it felt like for Seattle, it was kind of the same way. Suddenly, as soon as he was out, it was like, Gene was like, okay, I could do this.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, all right, don't have to worry about this.
Yeah, suddenly they just had a little more momentum and confidence going into it. And I have to think it'd be the same thing for the Packers if Bosa's not going to be available. Kyle Shanahan, though, he's keeping it up in the air. He's going to make sure that LaFleur has to plan for him to play anyway. He said, quote, he definitely could be good for Sunday. He definitely could not be good for Sunday. Just wise words.
Yeah, wow. What insight from Kyle Shanahan there. If that's not coach speak, I don't know what it. LaFleur does the same exact thing. He's like, he could, maybe he won't though. I don't know. We're kind of thinking about that with Jair as well. But yeah, I mean, dude, talk about just Bosa. Our offensive line has been pretty good this season. It didn't go through the bumps and bruises like it did last year. But, you know, if Nick Bosa's not on the field, I mean, just the amount of relief there would be for that offense would be significant.
That would be huge. And I mean, especially if it's going to be wet conditions out there, I'd be a little even more hesitant about having Bosa, because just an extra slip of, you know, your leg, you know, going a little further than you would have originally planned. I don't know, just doesn't give me a good feeling. And then you're playing the Bills the following week, also could be in unideal conditions. So just a lot to think about. And
that's the problem too, right? Like there is no cushion this year for the 49ers, because if it was, all right, you know, we have a little bit of a physical back end of the schedule, fine, or we have such a divisional lead, that's not there. I mean, the NFC West is very winnable. I think it is very, but you're talking about those division games that you've lost. Those are going to make a sizable difference. You know, if the Cardinals don't fall off or anything like that, you know, sitting at 5-5, same records, but they got wins over you. So it's tough because, yeah, like you want your best players on the field, but there's also that, I mean, we got to kind of rest them and make sure they're good. And like you said, the Bills are coming out. Yeah, this game I would say is more important than the Bills, just because obviously it's within the conference, but you know, we're going to be competing against each other to get a wild card spot most likely. But yeah, man, like it's going to be tough. This is going to be a tough stretch for the 49ers, but you know, you'll kind of see like what this team is really made of, you know, come Sunday, I think, against the Packers. And it's the same thing with the Packers too. You know, they had a disappointing outing against the Bears, but if they come out strong against the 49ers, I'm going to feel a whole lot better. And, you know, Jordan Love being healthier for another week, and he made some better decisions last week. I know a ball sailed on him. He threw a pick, but yeah, if he can play clean football, I think they might be able to sneak this one out. Maybe.
Now, yeah, I know it's the NFC West standings look close, but really for the 49ers, because they burned their cushion. Yeah. They certainly did. Now you have to win every game. And I feel like that's just unrealistic because they haven't even beaten a team over 500 this season. So there's not a lot of optimism. Cardinals, on the other hand, have one of the easiest schedules going forward. So yeah, I'm not as optimistic. Certainly there's a path for it. Just feels like an unlikely path right now. And especially with the way this team has looked. I've been saying the same thing as you, Tom, where it's like, hey, like they could go on a run. This could be the game where they put it all together for the last like 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And like, this has to be the game. Right. And yeah, now they're feeling urgency, as Diamador Lenore said. We feel the urgency now. It's like, well, where was the urgency last week? So I've just been a little little peeved. But
yeah, I get you.
As far as NFC North, like, I mean, you guys are in a dogfight with the Lions and Vikings. So I think that ups the ante for the Packers to stack these wins. Even one loss can put you behind the 8 ball as far as, wild card seeding as well. When you look how it breaks down, Rams, Seahawks, and the Niners are kind of, chomping at the bit a little bit. But ultimately, I think you guys are still in a favorable spot.
Yeah, I think we're in a good spot. And I mean, just my concern is they lose against the 49ers. Like I said, there's not too much separating those two teams because you got to play the Bills. We got to play the Lions again, too. Like, it's not the easiest. We got to play the Vikings again. The Bears, again, these are just divisional games. So, yeah, it's a bit of a dogfight. I am praying that the Vikings start dropping some games relatively soon. I don't know if that's going to happen because they did go toe-to-toe with the Lions. But, yeah, we're in a good spot right this second. But, the Rams, Seahawks, or 49ers start going on a run and they all have the same record. It could be a problem, especially if the 49ers wind up beating us. And we got to play the Seahawks too. So like that is definitely something in the back of the mind as we start getting into December. The postseason is not too far away.
Isn't it so annoying when your entire division is good?
It makes it more fun. Don't get me wrong. It does make it a lot more fun. But did I prefer when we were just obliterating teams and with? Yeah, 1,000,000%. I liked winning. Winning was nice. It was good. So I thought it was just going to be between the Lions and Packers this year. Yeah. And the Vikings, I think, have just, I said with Sam Darnold, they'd win some games, but I think they've just blown away a ton of expectations that they're still sitting at this record at this point in the season. So, yeah, I think the division is a bit of a dogfight. The whole, iron sharpens iron, but we'll kind of see how it plays out because there's still a lot of football left to be played, especially within the division.
Yeah, for sure. So this weekend's going to be fun, I think.
Hope.
Yeah, I hope. The 49ers are underdogs for the first time this season. I don't know what took so long. But we'll see if we see another version of them, if they have that in their bag this year. But like I said, if they end up losing this game, it's pretty much done. So I'm sure that would feel good to put the playoff hopes.
I mean, if we happen to do that, it's just an extra bonus at this point. We're not going to cry about it. I'll put it that way. But yeah, I imagine it's still going to be a pretty good game. Like, I am still worried about CMC. I don't care if he hasn't looked the way he has looked because, listen, Bryce Young had a career game against us last year. I know we don't got Joe Barry anymore, but it just seems that whenever teams come to play, they usually do it against the Green Bay Packers. So I am not holding my breath that it's going to be a blowout in any way, shape, or form.
All right. So do you have a score prediction at all? I haven't thought about this yet, but
what are their average? What are the 49ers averaging right this second in terms of points per game?
It's on the high end of 20, I want to say, like 20, 26, I think the last time I looked.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. 17, 20, 30 against the that's the Cowboys. 18. Yeah.
25. What's funny? 49ers, Green Bay tied for 25 points per game.
Perfect. You know what? It's going to be 27-25. It's going to be a tie.
It's going to be a tie.
That's it. It's just going to go.
How pissed would you be
I'd be so pissed if it was a tie after all that. And we're just sitting here and it's like a 6-6 game. And we're just missing field goals. Moody can't hit one. McManus can't hit one. And it's just going back and forth.
Don't put that into the universe, okay?
Yeah, I don't want to watch it. Hey, we're America's game of the week, Steph, okay? Game of the week. So.
Got to put on a show. All right, I'm going to go. I'm going to go 24-28. I think the Packers win this one.
Are you trying to reverse psychology though? I do, because obviously, Steph, your pick determines if the Packers win or not. Did you pick the 49ers to win in the divisional round? Against Packers
I'm sure I did.
Okay, then we're winning. Then that's it. Then we're winning. That's obviously, you picked the right team last time, but this time pick the right team. It's fine. It's fine. So we won.
Okay.
Great. Wonderful.
Yeah, 28-24. Travis agrees. Heyo.
All right, Travis.
28-24.
Well, again, if you just flop that, I think.
But Niners,
yeah.
If you just swap.
You just swap that and make that Packers, then I completely agree. I couldn't agree more. That was great analysis. But no, I think this is gonna wind up being a close game. I'm very curious to see what Packers team shows up, because that first drive of the Bears, it was surgical. Like, they moved down the field and they looked amazing, and then they're like, nah, we're good. We don't have to show up until the second half. So yeah, it might come down to the fourth quarter and see who's gonna not give this game away.
On the other hand, the 49ers opening scripts have not been good this season, at all. And they can get to the red zone quite a bit. They've been very good at that this season. They just haven't been able to get as many touchdowns. So
we were 29th heading into the Bears game in red zone offense. So yeah, no, I get you. I get you.
Yeah. So, well, Tom, it's going to be a blast. I hope, and I really appreciate you coming on. Kind of last minute, we made it work, but love having you on, and I hope you're happy after some.
I hope you. I hope you're happy. No, I appreciate you having me on. No, this is fantastic. Had to return the favor, of course. Chaotic Good Sports. So yes, show some love to 49K. Let's go.
And show some love to Tom's channel as well. The link to his channel is in the description of this video. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review. For now, folks, have a good rest of your Wednesday. From me, from Tom, peace.
Go Packers.